You see the flashing lights in your rearview mirror? Your heart is pounding, and the officer starts asking questions that seem routine. But what you don't realize is every word you say is being used to build a case against you, right there on the side of the road. One wrong answer, even if you're stone cold sober, can make things a whole lot worse. I've seen firsthand how innocent answers to the wrong questions can turn into DWI charges. In this discussion, I'll break down 5 trick questions cops use during DWI stops and how to protect yourself if you ever get pulled over. Let's jump right in with the first trick question. Have you had anything to drink tonight? Every Texas driver knows this one. You get pulled over, the officer walks up, and this is often the very first thing out of their mouth. It sounds innocent, almost like small talk, but this is anything but casual. Here's the truth. The question is designed to get you to admit to drinking, even just a little. In Texas, even saying, "I only had 1 beer with dinner," can be used as evidence against you later on. Police don't actually care if you've had a sip or a whole pitcher. They want you on record admitting that alcohol has touched your lips. Why? Because it gives them a reason to investigate further. You might think honesty will help, but in reality, it almost always backfires.
Let me tell you about a situation I once saw. A driver was pulled over in Austin after a Texas Longhorns game. Traffic was a mess. The officer asked the usual question, and the driver, wanting to be polite, said, "Yeah, just a glass of wine at dinner." But that's all it took. The officer immediately started a DWI investigation, even though the driver was under the legal limit. He spent the night in jail, all because he thought being honest would get him back on the road quicker. The best way to respond? You have the right to politely decline to answer. You can say, "Officer, I'd rather not answer any questions." In Texas, you're not required to admit to drinking. Staying silent is not an admission of guilt. It's your right. Now the second trick question. Where are you coming from? The officer wants to know your origin, and specifically, if you're coming from somewhere that serves alcohol like a bar, a concert, or a party. If you say, "Officer, I just left the White Elephant," or "I was at my buddy's house watching the Cowboys game," well, guess what? The officer will use this as a clue that you might have been drinking. Why does this matter in Texas? Because the officer is building a case against you step by step. If you admit you were in a place where people drink or where alcohol is served, even if you didn't drink a sip, it's another reason for the officer to keep pressing. It's not illegal to leave a bar, but saying you came from one creates a dotted line back to alcohol and increases their suspicion. I've seen cases where people answered this question without thinking. One mentions they left a brewery, even though they were the designated driver that night. Guess what? The officer didn't believe them. Suddenly, everything about their sobriety was under the microscope. Even innocent mistakes like fumbling for a wallet became evidence of intoxication. So how do you handle this? Again, you don't have to answer. It's perfectly legal in Texas to politely decline. Say, "I'm not comfortable answering that question." You don't owe the officer your evening's itinerary, and refusing to answer does not give them legal grounds to arrest you. Now, this third one seems harmless, but it's a classic trap. The officer asks, "Do you know why I pulled you over?" The real reason they ask is to get you to admit to a violation like speeding, failing to signal, swerving, or maybe something else you weren't even aware of. In Texas, even a minor traffic violation can be the supposed reason for a DWI stop. If you say, "Yeah, I was probably going a little fast," well, that's an admission to speeding. If you guess, "I might have drifted over the line a little," you've just admitted to possibly failing to maintain your lane, one of the most common justifications for a DWI traffic stop. There was a case of a young man from San Antonio who answered this question by saying, "Officer, was I weaving?" He was being honest. He had dropped his phone and reached for it without thinking. Well, that comment was later used and twisted in court as a sign he couldn't control his vehicle because he was impaired. Here's what you should do. Don't guess. Don't offer up reasons. The best answer is, "No, officer, I'm not sure." This protects you from making a statement that will be used against you later on. In Texas, being polite and non-committal is your best defense. The fourth one is huge in Texas DWI cases. The officer asks, "Hey, would you mind stepping out of the vehicle and performing some tests for me? You know, just to make sure you're okay to drive?" They might call them simple tests or say they're just checking your coordination. It sounds optional, almost like a courtesy, but let's be clear. Field sobriety tests are not pass-fail science. They're designed to give the officer evidence. In Texas, these tests like the walk and turn, the one-leg stand, and the eye test all rely on the officer's judgment. They're looking for small mistakes, losing your balance, swaying, starting too soon. But here's the trick. Every normal person is nervous during a traffic stop, especially if blue and red lights are flashing and cars are whizzing by on I-35. There was a case in Central Texas once where someone was stopped late at night. He agreed to do the field sobriety tests, thinking it would clear him, but he was tired and anxious, and English wasn't his first language. He missed a step and lost his balance for a second. That was all the officer needed. The video showed he wasn't drunk, but the officer's report focused only on his mistakes. It took months to clear his name. You don't have to take these tests in Texas. You can say, "No thank you, officer. I choose not to do any field sobriety tests." You might be arrested anyway, but you're not providing extra evidence to be used against you in court. That can make all the difference. The fifth trick question is all about the portable breathalyzer, often called a PBT. The officer might say, "It's just a quick test." You know, if you've got nothing to hide, why not blow? In Texas, officers carry these devices and often act like they're no big deal, just routine. Here's what most people don't know. The results from these tests aren't always reliable and often can't be used as evidence in a Texas courtroom. But if you blow and the number's high, that gives the officer more reason to arrest you. Even a low number can look suspicious if you've already admitted to drinking or coming from a bar. Testing has shown that these portable breath tests can register alcohol despite someone not having had anything to drink. In Texas, you can refuse the portable breath test without suspended license consequences. The officer might threaten, might push, but you're allowed to say, "No thank you." Remember, if you're arrested and asked to take a breath or blood test at the station, that's an entirely different story, and it comes with its own separate consequences. But on the side of the road, it's your right to say no. Let's quickly recap what we've covered. Here are the 5 trick questions cops use during a Texas DWI stop. 1. Have you had anything to drink tonight? Don't admit to drinking. You don't have to. Number 2. Where are you coming from tonight? Don't give them a reason to assume you've been drinking. You don't have to answer. Number 3. Do you know why I pulled you over? Don't guess. Don't admit. Stay neutral. Number 4. Would you mind doing some field sobriety tests? You can refuse these tests in Texas. And number 5. Why don't you just blow into this portable breathalyzer? You can legally refuse the roadside PBT. Remember, the goal of these questions is not to help you. They're building a case against you, one answer at a time. Being polite, calm, and knowing your rights is your best protection.